Before we can look at how to create healthy balanced meals and eating towards your weight goals and all of that other fun stuff, we firstly need to cover the basics of nutrition because I want you to have this solid grounding and understanding so that you know what you're putting into your body and why. And the truth is we could easily fill an entire program just with information about this, but there's absolutely no reason for you to know it in that much detail because then it just gets far more overwhelming and complicated than it needs to be. So I'm going to break this down into only what you need to know to start making more informed choices and start making better decisions in what you're eating. So the first thing we need to look at is what actually is food. Well, food can be broken down into two main categories. The first is macronutrients, which count as protein, carbohydrates, and fats. Now, you need these in large portions each and every day to start fueling your body with what it needs. The second nutrient is micronutrients, and these are classed as vitamins and minerals. And these you need in much smaller amounts, some every day, some every few days. And we're going to be looking at that at a later date when we dive into micronutrients and deficiencies. Now, it's common for different foods to be built up of various different nutrients. For example, if you take something like vegetables, it'll often primarily be carbohydrates, but there'll also be a ton of vitamins and minerals in there. There'll be a little bit of protein and often very little fat, whereas if you look at something like meat or chicken breast, it's going to be high in protein, high in vitamins and minerals, but it's going to have very little carbohydrates in. And that's why we need to start eating a balanced diet so that you can get this whole range of different nutrients into your body, because being deficient in just one thing can have a massive impact on how you feel, your energy levels, your immune system, how your body's functioning, your focus, your sleep, and everything else. And that's why we really need to start putting the focus on what you have to put in rather than what you have to take out. So let's break these nutrients down one at a time and start seeing a little bit more about them. So the first of the nutrients we have to look at is protein, and you've no doubt seen this all over the media. You see all these bodybuilders devouring their protein shakes, trying to fuel their muscles and talking about their gains. And honestly, it can put a huge misperception on what protein actually is and why it's important. Whereas for every single person, protein plays an essential part in a balanced diet. It helps them grow and repair muscle, helps the creation of hormones, keeps them fuller for longer, and helps with muscle tissue and everything else. And a lack of protein can cause a whole host of problems. And these can vary from injuries to loss of muscle mass to problems sleeping, a lack of energy, and in some cases even depression. And what tends to happen in the modern diet is people skip protein at breakfast. They'll have a small amount at lunch and then they'll have a huge portion at dinner. But the problem with that is your body can only process so much protein every hour. And in order to start actually going through the process of growth and repair and everything else, we want to start fueling the body with what it needs. And that's why I want you to start looking at ways to actually include a form of protein at every single meal. And the great part about this from a weight loss perspective as well is protein is highly filling. It's going to actually keep you fuller for longer, help you cut down on cravings, battles with willpower, and really have a big impact on your focus on food. So protein is made up of what is known as amino acids, and basically what these are the building blocks of your body because they're responsible for everything from growth to repair. So animal products contain all of these amino acids, and that's why they're known as a complete protein source, whereas vegetarian options are often missing some, and that's why you need to be far more careful on a vegetarian diet to make sure that you're getting everything that you need. But with that being said, it's completely possible to get all of the nutrients you need from a vegetarian or vegan diet. You just need to aim to eat a wider variety of foods, and in some cases it might actually be worth looking towards supplements, in particular vitamin B12, which is only found in animal products and is one of the most common deficiencies that vegetarians and vegans face. And like I said, in a later session, we're going to be looking at everything you need to know about deficiencies and how you can really get around them and make sure that you don't have any problems in your body. So the best forms of protein include lean cuts of meat, any types of fish, lentils, peas, chickpeas, eggs, tofu, Greek yogurt. And what I've done is I've created a healthy foods cheat sheet where I'm breaking down all three of these nutrients. I'm going to show you the best sources, and you can download that using the button below this video. And then what I'm going to do in a couple of videos time is I'm going to take that cheat sheet and show you how you can actually start using it to put together healthy balanced meals without making this any more difficult than it needs to be. The second nutrient is carbohydrates, and with all of these fad diets and trends, they've often demonized these, making people fear eating them because they think that it's going to make them fat. And the one thing I want to clear up straight away is eating carbohydrates doesn't make you fat. At the end of the day, the only thing that matters is the total number of calories that you eat, regardless of which source that they come from. Now, the reason why most fad diets will cut carbohydrates out is when you eat carbs, your body holds onto more water. So if you cut them out, you very quickly lose that water weight. And I've seen people go on a low carb diet, they weigh over 100 kilograms and they'll lose over a stone in a week, which sounds absolutely incredible. You take that result, you put it on a diet, and you can portray it as this miracle cure. But the problem is, as soon as that person starts eating carbs again, that water weight's going to go straight back on because they haven't actually lost any weight or any fat, which is what we want to be looking for in order for long-term changes. But this causes a lot of people to fear them, where they'll eat excess carbs one day, they might be storing a little bit of water the next, they might be feeling a little bit fluffy, the scale number on the scale fluctuates, and that's why instead we want to move to a way of eating that's actually balanced, to try and minimize these swings and get you to recognize actually if your body is holding on to more water, if it's something else related to your stress, your hormones, or something else, and not obsessing over the number on the scale. So we're going to be building on this further later on, but I just want to explain to you exactly what carbohydrates are, so you know what you need to be putting into your diet, because essentially they can be broken into two categories. So the first is known as complex carbohydrates. Now, these are foods like oats, whole wheat pasta, brown rice, and vegetables. And the reason why they're called complex is they're filled with fiber, so they're going to be broken down slowly by your body. And the reason why this is so important is all carbohydrates, regardless of the source, whether it's a piece of broccoli or it's a chocolate bar, gets broken down in your body into sugar. But where this differs is the rate at which it's done. So complex carbohydrates break down very slowly. They have a slow release of energy. They don't really spike your blood sugar levels. And because of that, you don't get that up and down energy swing. And they're actually going to keep you fuller for longer. Whereas on the other side of that, the other type of carbohydrates are known as simple carbohydrates. And these are things like cake, pastries, white bread. And the problem with these is when they're processed, all of the fiber and bran is taken out of them. So they have nothing in there to really stop your blood sugar levels spiking, and you get a very, very quick release of energy. And that's why you might notice that when you eat a chocolate bar, suddenly you feel great, but half an hour later your energy levels drop, you go into a slump, and then you land up in this rinse and repeat cycle of craving more carbohydrates, going around in circles. And from a health perspective, one thing that we have to get under control is to stop spiking your blood sugar levels on such a regular basis, because this is going to go a long way in actually affecting your weight loss, reducing your risk of diabetes, and also how you feel generally on a day-to-day basis. So to kind of explain this a little bit better, you may have heard of the GI of food, or the glycemic index, and basically what this is a measurement out of 100 due to how quickly carbohydrates spike your blood sugar levels, with 55 and under considered low, 56 to 69 medium, and over 70 high. And that's why wherever possible we should be opting for foods such as vegetables, oats, brown rice, whole wheat pasta, all of these nutrients that are packed with fiber, because that's going to have a big effect on everything from how you feel, your energy, your mood, and your risk of disease. And one of my favorite strategies to use is, if you're going to have a chocolate bar, or you're going to go out and have dessert, or anything else high in sugar, is before that aim to have a low GI meal built around these foods, because then when you have the high GI, it actually averages it out and slows the impact that that's going to have on your blood sugar levels. Because in this program, I'm going to teach you a way to eat free of restriction, where nothing ever has to be off limits. And by introducing strategies like this, it's going to go a long way to actually improving the way you eat without having to give anything up, and actually minimizing the amount of damage that's done to your body long term. Now, in the majority of cases, most people are going to thrive on a diet of carbohydrates. It's going to give them energy, going to keep them fuller for longer, and there's absolutely no reason to avoid them. But just like everything else in life, there are going to be some instances where actually people could benefit from a low carbohydrate diet. And one example of this is, say you're pre-diabetic or you have type 2 diabetes, you might be better off on a high fat diet where you really minimize your blood sugar levels spiking. Or if you are going to eat carbohydrates, I highly recommend that you actually stick to complex sources wherever you can to have that minimal negative effect on your body. And this is going to go a long way in actually treating the disease. So while we're on the topic of carbohydrates, there's two myths that I want to clear up. The first being eating carbohydrates after 6 o'clock makes you fat. There's absolutely no scientific backing behind this at all. All that matters on a day-to-day basis is how much food you eat throughout the day, making sure that you're consistent in regards to your goals, and you really don't need to worry about meal timings or what you eat and when. And the second myth is that by eating smaller, more balanced meals throughout the day, you're going to keep your metabolism on fire. You're going to be burning more energy, and this is going to help you burn more fat. And this is a myth that personally I bought into for over a year, because in the fitness industry it's something that's blown out of proportion, and on paper it makes perfect sense. Keep eating, keep your metabolism going, and you're going to keep losing fat. So just like a lot of other people, I fell into this trap. And I remember going out every day. I had 6 to 8 Tupperwares with me. I had small portion meals, but the problem with that is before I even finished a meal I was starving. I was obsessed about food all of the time. I was never satisfied, and I was always hungry, and mentally and emotionally I was draining myself. And if you actually look at the science behind it all, yes, when you eat, your metabolism does get spiked, but this is done in proportion to the volume of food. So whether you take your food that you're going to eat for the day and you split it over 3 meals, 6 or 8, your metabolism's still going to increase at the same rate. And that's why I really want you to start listening to your body and see what actually works for you. Because if you enjoy eating smaller meals throughout the day, then great. Go and do that. But if instead you prefer having 3 larger balanced meals, then great as well, go and do that. It's all about finding what works out for you and not putting any extra pressure. You really need to think about your routine, what you can actually do that you're going to enjoy. So if you do feel like I did, where you're always starving, you're never satisfied, and you're obsessing about food, then it may very well be worth you moving to a way of eating just based around 3 bigger meals with no snacks in between. Or if you do struggle to eat larger meals, then think about if you can break it up, split it out throughout the day, and what's really going to help you stay fuller for longer and get you to stop obsessing over what you have to eat. So the third major macronutrient is fats, and just like carbohydrates, often these are demonized or portrayed in a negative light by all of these fad diets, feared as the enemy and the reason why people gain weight, when in reality eating healthy fat is an essential part of a balanced diet. It plays a big role in everything from stabilizing your hormones to protecting your organs and providing you with energy. And also on top of that, you need healthy fat in your diet to absorb various vitamins, including A, D, E and K, meaning if you don't have healthy fat in your diet, regardless of how many vegetables and fruits you eat, you're not going to get the full benefit of them. Now, the reason why often fats are feared is, yes, they do contain more calories per gram than proteins or carbohydrates, coming in at 9 calories instead of 4. But just because they're higher in calories doesn't mean that they're bad for you, and we need to start including them at every single meal so that you can actually absorb the vitamins and minerals that you need. Because fats themselves are not the reason why people get fat. It's overeating, because too much of anything is going to cause you to gain weight. And that's why our focus really is to have a healthy balance of everything, where you're putting the right foods into your body. And probably the biggest problem to come out of this fear of eating fat is this huge demand for low fat and fat-free products. And the reason why this is such an issue is when you take the fat out of a food, it tastes pretty bland, it's pretty boring, it loses a lot of its flavor and taste. And that's why manufacturers have had to find other ways in order to combat this. And what they've done is they've taken the fat out and they've filled it with sugar, they filled it with sweeteners and chemicals and a whole host of other products that are man-made, and you really wouldn't want to be putting into your body in high amounts. But that's what people are doing. They think they're making the healthy choice by cutting fat out, saving a few calories, but instead of putting all of these chemicals in. And so that's why I really want you to start thinking about what you're putting into your body and why. Because yes, by going low fat you may be able to save a few calories, but you're doing that at the expense of putting all of these other chemicals in. And also when you're taking the fat out of food, it has to go through a whole host of processing, which in turn can actually remove a lot of vitamins and minerals as well, along with a host of health benefits that you could have got from that food in its natural form. And I'll give you a perfect example. A lot of people fear drinking full fat milk because it's higher in calories, but when it's actually processed and turned into semi-skimmed, it loses vitamin A and E and a lot of the health benefits that could have come with it. So yes, you might be having a slightly more calories, but from a nutritional standpoint, you're going to be far better off. So just like carbohydrates, fats can be split into different groups. They come in different forms, and while you don't necessarily need to know the ins and outs of this, I just want to cover it briefly because you've no doubt heard of some of these before. So the first of these is saturated fats, and these are going to be solid at room temperature, and they primarily come in animal products, so stuff like butter, meat, and cheese, but you also find them in other sources as well, like coconut oil. The second group of fat are unsaturated fats. Now, these are going to be liquid at room temperature, and they come in two different forms. The first of which is monounsaturated fats. So this is stuff like avocados, nuts, and olive oil. And the second of these is polyunsaturated fats. And these are going to be in nuts and seeds and fish and vegetable oil and in some leafy greens. And there is one other form of fat that really needs our attention, and this is omega-3 fatty acids. And you get this in oily fish, nuts, and seeds, and in some plants. And this is one of the things in a Western diet that we can often be deficient in. And that's why I really want you to think about either finding ways to increase your intake from natural sources, eating oily fish at least once a week, or doing what a lot of people do and looking to supplement, because this is going to have a big impact on how you think and feel. So in a balanced diet, we really want to be including more healthy fats, and the best forms are going to be avocados, extra virgin olive oil, nuts, seeds, coconut oil, and we really want to be cutting down on the processed and refined fats that you'll find in a lot of fast foods, takeaways, and processed foods. But while we're on the topic of this, the one thing I want to talk to you about is saturated fat, because for the last 50 years or so, we've been told that you can't eat saturated fat. It's going to cause heart disease, cause all of these health problems. And new research over the last few years has actually turned this completely around. And what they found is that human beings have been eating saturated fat for thousands of years, but a lot of the health problems that it's now been blamed on have only been around for the last 50 years or so. And we simply cannot blame a new problem for something that we've been doing for thousands of years. But that's what manufacturers and fad diets and all of these trends have done. They've used saturated fat as a scapegoat to very much cover up the fact that all of these health problems have come along since we've moved on to a diet of highly refined and processed foods, when we've been eating more sugar, artificial sweeteners and chemicals, and putting a whole host of unnatural products into our bodies. So there really is no need to be excluding saturated fat from your diet or to be fearing it. But with that being said, because these findings are so recent and this theory's been turned on its head, there's no exact scientific backing of how much is a safe amount to be having every single day. And that's why, to err on the safe side, it is better off to stick to non-saturated fat sources. So like I said, stuff like your olive oil, your avocados, nuts, seeds. So that's pretty much everything that you need to know about macronutrients and fueling your body with what it needs. And like I said, there was no need to overcomplicate this or make it any more difficult than it needs to be. And if you do, however, want to know more about this, then in my book, Become a Better You, I go into far more detail, go into all the science behind it and explain to you how it actually works. And you can download a free copy of my book at the top of this program, and just check out the basics of nutrition section because I go into far more detail in there. But now in this program, though, I want to go in a slightly different direction. The first thing I want you to do is download the cheat sheet with some of the healthiest forms of each of these nutrients below this video, and then what we're going to do is move on to how to put together healthy balanced meals, get you to start eating towards your health goals, and then look at weight loss and actually how you can start moving forward with your journey. Put together a proper plan to get you to start focusing on that, and then we're going to come back to nutrition and look at different aspects like micronutrients and water and how you can eat for exercise and everything else you need. But with this solid foundation, now you can actually start moving forward, and then we can focus on that at a later date.